Welcome to VPG's Virtual Water Cooler Chat Podcast, a platform that features professionals across a variety of industries and promotes growth mindset principles with a central pillar of championing the achievements of women. Our conversations explore a wide spectrum of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, creating a vibrant mosaic that enriches our collective understanding and strengthens our commitment to growth and empowerment. Today, we're speaking with Jenni Katzer, Director, Senior Counsel, Operations, Legal, and Litigation at Oscar Health. Before going in-house, Jenni spent approximately 15 years in private practice, specializing in commercial disputes and litigation at prominent law firms and defending financial institutions and publicly traded companies in state and federal courts across the country. She also serves on the Community Legal Aid SoCal Board of Directors and is the secretary for a community swim team. Outside of work and her community service, Jenni enjoys climbing and practicing Ashtanga yoga. Let's get started.
It's nice to see you, Ashley. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And today we're going to talk about navigating change. To start, would you like to share with our audience who is Jenni Katzer?
Today's Jenni Katzer is a first-generation Asian American lawyer, single mom, climber, and yogi.
Do you want to talk about the type of law that you are actually in? And I know that you have kind of navigated a couple of different industries, insurance for the most part. So I'll let you tell your story.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off by saying I'm really passionate about the area that I'm in right now, which is healthcare insurance. But since the theme of this podcast is navigating change, I should probably start from the very beginning. How did you get here, Jenni? Right? I graduated law school in 2007. And if you may remember, 2007 was kind of right at the tip of the real estate bubble bust, right? So we had a lot of subprime mortgages and all of that. And the real estate industry was kind of struggling a little bit. Well, I went into real estate litigation right out of law school in 2007 and kind of got to see that industry kind of firsthand struggling with some changes. Around that time, my husband, we were married for 20 years. We're no longer married. He did his residency at Georgetown. So I had to move then from the San Francisco Bay Area to DC, where I quickly pivoted into commercial general liability insurance. At the time, it was like a relatively easy maneuver because in construction litigation, you're suing or you're tendering a lot of claims to insurance companies. And so you work with what we call CGL policies, commercial general liability policies. So then I was in DC for 3 years working with CGL policies. And then he got his fellowship at the University of California. So then we had to move back, right? Right. And then I quickly pivoted also in the insurance industry to different types of coverages. So directors and officers liability, professional liability insurance, right? Their management liability insurance. So we kind of expanded. It was still insurance, right? But it was different. It wasn't commercial general liability. We had a lot of specialized insurance, like the policies that are underwritten by Lloyd's of London, and really interesting risks. And so that was really fun. And so I did that at Sedgwick for some time. I don't know if you're familiar with Sedgwick, the law firm.
I heard about it.
So it was a law firm that had been around for 95 years. And around the time that I left, Sedgwick actually declared bankruptcy. So quickly pivoted from Sedgwick to Troutman, where I was kind of for the remainder of my law firm career. I was a litigator and quickly pivoted into different types of insurance and then also just some general commercial litigation. Did this through COVID. COVID hit, things changed, right? And I have 2 young kids and I realized 15 years in litigation, it was time to get out. So quickly pivoted again to United Healthcare, where I specialized in health insurance operations. I came in knowing a lot about insurance, very little about health insurance, but quickly learned that a regulated industry is a regulated industry is a regulated industry, right? So long as you could find the appropriate resources and think critically and ask the right questions, I feel like you can do anything. And so that was actually a really nice, easy transition for me going from commercial litigation, commercial insurance litigation to in-house at a health insurance company. And then in the beginning of last year, actually, probably when we last spoke, I moved from United Healthcare to Oscar Health, where I am now. So now I also support operations for Oscar Health, which is another health insurance company. So quite the journey, right?
Yeah, I think the last time when we talked, it was the LA fire.
Yeah. Wow, that was a long time ago.
It was a while ago. I mean, we have new issues now, but that was a while back.
Yeah, it was a while back. A lot has changed in that year as well, right?
So, like now that you have been with Oscar Health for a while now, I wonder how has life changed since then for Jenni?
Well, that's so interesting because life is still changing for Jenni.
For all of us, actually.
Yeah. And it's just kind of one of those things that you don't realize how much you've changed until you see something small and you kind of realize. So last year when we spoke, I was just beginning my career at Oscar Health. The CEO of United Healthcare just got murdered. I don't know if you remember that. Morale, I think, was really low, but also there were a lot of unfair and fair criticisms of kind of the healthcare industry, right? So that kind of precipitated just some introspection there. And then my husband of about 18 years, the marriage kind of like suddenly disintegrated, right? And so it was a very unstabilizing moment for me, and I kind of had to find my footing pretty quickly. But then that also precipitated a bunch of other changes. I started doing more yoga. I started climbing more. Life looks a little bit different now than it did last year.
This is really interesting. Thank you for being so candid and transparent about this, because I know that the topics that you are talking about while you're navigating change are not easy to talk about, especially for Asian Americans. A lot of time it has changed a lot. People are much more open in talking about certain issues. It's sort of the stigma of being the model for the minorities, and a lot of things that we just don't share in the public because we'll lose face. And the family will lose face, that type of thing. So I wonder, how do you manage to sort of be willing to share?
It's really interesting because to answer your question, I'm going to answer it a little bit backwards and then go forwards.
Sure.
But when you're young, you have a lot to prove, right? So you have an image that you want to build and you want to nourish and you want to protect. Right. And I think for that reason, you put your best foot forward. You don't want to be too vulnerable with people, right? You don't want people to see the harder stuff, right? Because you want to fit in, right? And you want to show everyone you know what you're doing and you've got life by the horns, right? I don't know if it's my personal journey that I've hit a different stage in my life where I'm confident and I don't have as much to prove, right? Because I'm confident, or maybe the culture's changed and it's more acceptable to talk about your hardships. And we now have this self-awareness that if you are vulnerable to others, they will be vulnerable to you. And then you can share a lot of the challenges together. I don't know which one it is, but I find myself in this stage of life, whether because of my personal journey or because of a change in culture, being able to share more freely and being able to be more vulnerable. And I think it's benefited me tremendously. I've been able to find a lot of support where I wouldn't have found it. I find, oftentimes when I share something that I don't think anyone else is going through, others share that they've gone through the same thing. It's always beautiful. Right. And then you kind of create this sense of community, of people kind of struggling together, right? As opposed to showing each other up. So short answer to your question, I think it is much easier now to kind of open up a little bit. I wouldn't do this when I was young. I wouldn't do this, in 1990 or maybe the early 2000s. And there's a lot of platforms now to share like yours. Like you're very, very good about bringing community together. There's a lot of energy around telling your story, right? And people who want to hear your story and people who want to share your story.
I love that response. If I may, I'm going to add a couple of things that I've gone through to get to this point in terms of even having 3 podcasts. It's kind of absolutely unexpected. I used to sort of not really hiding everything, but I'm very old school. My parents very old school. It's like, do not share anything. You do not share anything at work because people use that against you. And there's still some truth to that. So I think finding the right audience and having that safety, sometimes I've gotten burned before. It's really a huge challenge that I'm actually on open platform to talk about stuff. My mom is still very old school. She just turned 80. So she would ask me questions. Like her exercise instructor is also the president of Toastmaster International in our area. I knew the instructor when I went to her class to try to kind of hone my public speaking skills. I only went there once because it just didn't seem the right fit, but I love that instructor. Turns out that one day I find out she's also my mom's exercise instructor at the rec center. So we were at a Thai restaurant and I was like, oh, Mom, how do you know her? She was like, she's my exercise instructor and they do Zumba. We were at the restaurant and said, oh, why don't you just invite her over to our table and then we'll join. And then we were talking and she goes, oh, Ashley, where have you been? I'm like, oh, I've been around. And I went to a restaurant. And so she asked my mom, she was like, how do you know Ashley?
Aw,
And then my mom said,
cute.
oh, that's my daughter.
That's so cute. What a compliment to your mother, too.
Yeah, and then also, like, my mom would be asking me, how do you know her? I said, oh, she was in the Toastmaster group. From time to time, I was like, because the local community, I want to basically contribute to maybe like, because I have a lot of different virtual classes. And so I want to kind of offer it to some of the people and maybe a couple of complimentary seats. So we went out for donut or spaghetti to be specific. And then so my mom was like, why are you going out with my instructor to have coffee? So do you feel left out? So there's a lot of those things. I'm still struggling a bit in terms of I'm old enough that I should not really worry about what my mom thinks. There's still a little part of me, even when I'm doing the podcast, there's a bit of struggle to be as open as much as I could. But when my mom sees something on the social media, she's like, why did you do that? But because I can. Like traditionally, women are so much more restricted in terms of mobility. In the old days, Chinese women have like feet binding, which is total restriction of mobility. For her, my mom doesn't drive. And so I'm her Uber driver too. So that comparison, I think sometimes it's really hard for her to understand. So for example, I went to Toronto to see like a Chinese singer on a concert by myself. And that
You
was
lead such a life. You lead such a life, Ashley. You're my inspiration.
so then I was like, I think I can. I'm a nothing venture, nothing gain person. So when it's really interesting when I try to say, I was justified to myself. I was like, oh, there's 10 million things of why I should not go to a concert. But the only thing there's like, how do I make it happen? So that's sort of like my mindset. And then my mom would be sitting there and was like, why are you going to another country to go to a concert? And you know what my answer is to her this day? Because I know that I would not win. I said, because I can. She doesn't have anything more to say about it. And then the next thing when she looked at it, she tried to come up with her argument. And the next question that I have for her was that, aren't you happy that your daughter can actually make that happen?
Yeah.
I'm pursuing my own happiness, So I think that is the part that I'm still struggling with it a bit because she will see some stuff on social media. She's like, why did you do that? I used to be in a much more people pleasing, especially parents. My dad is gone, but my mom is still here. So I want to make sure she leads a good life. And I don't want to absolutely upset her. Just a little bit is fine. The right dose. Okay, she goes like, where are you going again? And I was like, I'm going to go with some friends, going to a concert. Because you can, right? I was like, yes, because I can.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
So,
Good.
it's kind of a good balance. I don't know if you know Sochat McCutcheon. She is a privacy attorney at Verizon. She's in New York, part of NAPABA. And at the time when we actually had our virtual water cooler chat, it was the day that she started NACAL, is like the Cambodian Bar Associations. I mean, like the affinity group. And so I just feel like that. And we also have a really pretty tight-knit community. You and I both know Chris Chan. And from last time when I talked, I was like, when I was actually quite impressed that you are not only a yogi, but also a rock climber. And I recall I asked you, Jenni, is that hard? You want to talk about the balance between yogi and rock climbing? Because it seems a bit different. You want to talk about how you get to both?
Oh, they're not different at all. They're so similar.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess I'll talk about yoga first because that was like what I encountered early in my journey. First, I started doing something called Bikram yoga, which was like kind of trendy. You go into a studio, it's hot, you do the same kind of sequence, the same poses. So I first started doing it for physical fitness, but then I got more advanced and I became a yoga teacher trainer. And then I started doing another type of practice called Ashtanga. What you learn in Ashtanga is, this is going to sound so elementary, but it's very important. You learn to breathe. You learn to breathe through difficulty. You learn to focus on a point. They call that the drishti. And then you also learn a lot about balance. And I'm not just talking about physical balance, the balance between flexibility and strength, the balance between taking risks, but also knowing what your limits are, right? Because there's Ashtanga is, if you haven't seen it, there's a lot of, they call arm balances. So you're upside down on your hands and you do a lot of, different types of poses. And so you push yourself, but you don't push yourself too much. You suspend your breath, but you don't hold your breath. Like there's all these different things that you learn in yoga, but a lot of it is really just how do you find playfulness and peace in difficult situations. And you do it through physical practice, you do it through, your diet, you do it through meditation, breathing exercises. So it's like a very holistic type of approach to life. Now, climbing, you wouldn't think it, but climbing is actually very similar, right? Climbing it's a skill, it's a technique, but really what you're doing is you're just finding yourself in difficult situations, trying to get out of the difficult situations, learning how to enjoy it and breathe, right? And the physical aspects are actually very, very similar in that, when you're on a mountain, you are trying to balance maybe on your feet, or you're using different appendages to leverage movement or to leverage stability. And if you fall, you're going to fall well because you're tied in and you're safe, right? And so yoga is kind of the same way. Yoga is physically all about finding your balance. It's about using your different appendages to create compression or space in different areas of the body. If you're doing arm balances, you know how to safely get out of it. You know how to fall. You know where your limit is, but you also know what happens if you go over your limit, and you know what to do to safely come back. So physically, they're actually very, very similar. In fact, a lot of climbing studios a lot of climbing gyms have yoga studios as part of their practice and regimen.
Well, I guess the only thing that I would be more worried about if it's because I've done yoga, definitely very elementary. My balance is not very good. And so for me, when I said the difference is that, especially when you're a new climber, there's a certain level of safety because if you do a downward dog, or if you're on your hands or something like that, when you fall, it may kind of hurt, but you won't particularly die. But if you're on the climbing, I'm not quite sure it's like that visual image kind of intimidate me a bit, at least for the beginner.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually talking to my climbing partner about this. It's a difference in perspective. So when you're climbing, all you see is the wall, and you see what you need to hold, where you need to press. You see where you need to go. It's a very small perspective. Whereas if you are on the ground belaying the climber, the belayer is the one who holds the rope in case the climber falls. You actually see the space between the climber and the floor, right? Right. So it's a little more frightening when you're kind of from the outside. And my climbing partner, I had a situation where we were climbing outdoors and she took a really nasty fall. It was really scary for me. I mean, I still remember the sound of her helmet hitting the wall. It took me a long time to get over it. She was a little scared, shaken up, and she was hurt, but she's fine, right? But it didn't affect her emotionally as deeply as it affected me because I actually saw the fall, whereas she just experienced kind of zero gravity and then the impact. So she didn't see it from my perspective. So it's very interesting. So I think if you tried climbing as opposed to looked at, watch people climb, I think you find it a little more enjoyable.
One of these days. So there's skydiving, there's rock climbing, yoga, a lot of things I need to try.
Well, so the other thing about climbing that I think is really important to talk about is the concept of falling. And I think this is why I've taken so much to climbing recently. And it's when you do it safely, you have a belay partner that you trust, you have rope, right? And you know how to create anchors. So as you climb up, you're kind of putting the rope into metal clips into the mountain. And so as you keep going, you have a point that will catch you if you fall, right? And your partner will too. The weight of your partner's gonna, your partner's going to be on the other side of the rope. You're going to be on the other side of the rope, right? As you climb. And then if you fall, then that little clip will kind of hold the rope in place. And then the weight of both of you will be distributed evenly. So you won't hit the floor, which you won't deck, right? So it's actually quite safe. As you're climbing, you know what to avoid, you know what is relatively safer, right? You know the difference between rock types. You wouldn't climb on a rock that is really, really soft or that would absorb water after a rainstorm, right? So you're kind of equipped with all of this knowledge and you kind of go into it with appropriate training. Climbs are usually graded. So they're rated according to kind of difficulty. I think a reasonable person would climb within their difficulty, maybe a little bit higher to challenge themselves. If you're a climber and you know what you're doing, you really wouldn't be climbing something that is out of your league, right? So there's like all these different like systems in place to keep you safe and protected. And also you're wearing a helmet, right? You have all your gear and you kind of prepare for it. You learn, right? And climbing is a process of learning. And the thing is, you don't progress unless you fall and you take risks, right? So falling is very much part of the sport. It's scary, but you fall safely and you learn to fall better. And it's kind of just part of the culture. And I think that is profound because when you think about life, you are going to fall. Do you have the systems in place to catch you? Do you have the people, the partners in place to help you, right? And I think climbing is a great sport and it's really helped me kind of as I navigate all of these changes in life.
So did you watch the guy Alex Hanoi who climbed like Taipei 101?
Absolutely. Did you?
Yeah.
I hope you did. Yeah, it was pretty cool, wasn't it?
I mean, I like, wow, talk about Daredevil. I mean, it's calculated. People think that this is like Daredevil, but it's very calculated. They know the risk, but I'm just thinking like, really? First of all, I guess he's not afraid of heights. Maybe not. And then just the sheer resilience. And we're going to talk about resilience a bit of climbing there and with all this press coverage, Netflix cover it live. You talk about both like yoga and rock climbing. It's about building resilience. I saw that it was like, did you watch that? I'm like, yeah, I did. But I suspect that it would be a different perspective for you because you are a climber. I'm just like, oh, this is entertaining. But what were your thoughts about this whole challenge that he had?
Yeah, well, first of all, not all climbers are Alex Honnold. So just because I'm a climber, does that mean I could do what he did?
No Taipei 101 for you yet.
No Taipei 101. I will take the elevator up, please. I respect his athleticism and I respect his preparation. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he's an incredible person. Like, when he talks, he's done a lot of podcasts since Taipei 101. I don't know if you've heard them. When he talks about, it's pretty cool, right? Like when he talks about climbing, most of the time he talks isn't spent on talking about like strength training or gym workouts. He talks about like the mental preparation. He talks about shifting his perspective, right? He talks about, where to find rest and kind of like the levity of it. So I think it's really cool. It was super fun to see it. I think I enjoyed it just as much as you did. I think there were a couple moments when I was like, dude, he's just doing that for show. Like that was unnecessary. But it's a live audience and he needs to put on a show. So I get it. But yeah, I'm so glad you watched it. I love it when climbing kind of hits mainstream because I think like the sport has kind of been like a rebel sport or like a fringe sport for a long time. So now that it's in the Olympics and now there's like a Netflix live special, like that makes me really happy to see.
That's so awesome. Those who cannot climb watch, that will be me.
Yeah, he's cool.
So you climb for me. Let's talk about priorities change. You're a single mom. You have 2 kids, teenagers, no? Yes, or a lot older. What are the age range?
So one is a teenager in high school and one is in like the end of elementary school. So
okay.
A little bit different, but yeah.
Balancing between workload and basically guiding your children through this very challenging times actually. What type of lessons or values do you instill in your children?
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't feel like I sit down and like, these are the values I abide by.
Well, you generally don't do that.
Right. But what I do is I try to live my life in a way that I hope they see and they appreciate and they learn from. I'm actually very vulnerable with the children. If I'm having a bad day at work, I will talk about it because I want them to see that, as adults, we navigate challenges just like they do. And so I'll talk about like big projects, even climbing. Like if I'm training I did Horseshoe Hell, which was a climbing competition last year.
Wow.
I kept them involved in kind of every part of the journey because I wanted them to see me prepare and to be safe and to visualize, right? And to account for the risks and then have fun and then to celebrate that. So children are very absorbent. And so, their father has strong values and I have strong values and they will see that, right? And I think we live in a community of diverse people with different values and similar values. And I can see them already piecing together kind of how they want to live their life. They're kind of coming into their own. I see the kids as, I think someone was was telling me this, flowers to be nurtured, which I think is very different. I think maybe the Asian culture, like you see children are to be built, kind of, right? You build it, you lead it, and you guide it, and you mold it. But I feel like children will flourish in good environments, and you just kind of have to give them sunlight, love, right? We'll see. I mean, who knows? I think we're doing a good job.
Are there any things that they are doing that is actually influencing you, sort of reverse mentoring you in a way that you're like, oh, I should actually do things like this more often? So I'll give you an example. One of my mentors, one of the rainmaker from my very first paralegal work. He's very successful. He has 3 children that are very highly achieved professionals and have grandchildren. But when he said to me, he goes like, one of my kids tell me that you can never be proud of someone because you don't own them. So you can be proud to know someone. So basically you don't own their accomplishment. So that is something he was like, I didn't know that you cannot be proud of someone, but I learned that from my daughter.
I learn from them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the more interesting things? Like I learned from my mom. I learned from some of the kids that I have, and they surprise me all the time. And the kids, I mean, from BPG, I don't have any kids of my own. Every once in a while, do you feel like that the people, not necessarily only your children, but the people that are in the younger generation that was like, I never thought of it that way. Do you have an example of that?
100%. I have so many examples. I am so fortunate that I have such self-aware children. So I'll start with the silly one first, just because it's silly and
it's more fun.
It's more fun. Yeah. So I was really proud of myself because we got a sheet of paper and I was reading it out loud and it was like 167, and me being cool mom was like 6-7, and I was so proud of myself, Ashley. And my youngest daughter looks at me and she's like, Mom, that's so out. Now it's 4-1.
Really?
I'm
still on 6-7.
Yeah, me too. I just picked it up. So I thought that was really funny. But at a more serious level, my youngest one is very incredibly resilient and she sees the beauty in things. I'm almost concerned because she sees a lot of beauty in everything, right? We were sitting in the car the other day and she was like, Mom. I was like, what? She's like, my heart was beating really fast, but I told my heart to be still and it slowed down. And I was like, wow, where did you learn that? She's like, oh, from school or something. And she's just like, so when I'm feeling nervous, I just tell my heart to be still, Mom, and it works. And she's like, I just tried it in the car. It works. And so I think about that sometimes. It's
blows your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, if you're feeling anxious, just tell your heart to be still. And I was like, wow. Wow.
They didn't teach us that before.
It takes so much meditation work to get there. And here my little elementary school daughter just did it. And then my older daughter, she is so disciplined and so smart, Ashley, and so honest. She's so brutally honest about what's going on. And so, it's crazy. So I get inspiration from her. She is currently a competitive sailor. It's a difficult sport, right? There's a lot to pay attention to with the wind. Yeah. And in addition to that, there's a lot of relationship building exercises, right? Because you're usually partnered on a boat. And so I love listening to her because she approaches every issue with honesty, tact, and this curiosity. So if she's having a bad day or she didn't do well, she's not upset at her performance. She's always breaking down, what could I have done better? How do I avoid that next time? I mean, if I was a kid on a team and I did that, I would just spend the next 48 hours crying. Right. But I mean, she has this amazing ability to reflect and to grow. I'm inspired by that all the time. There's always she eats very well. So I have to hide my Pop-Tarts in a different cupboard when she comes home, and she doesn't eat a lot of sweets. And so if I'm bringing home cookies, I need to eat them before she gets here, so it's
your other daughter will help you take care of it.
Yeah.
The younger one?
The younger one, but totally. Yeah. I see my kids as just these beautiful people that I have the honor kind of growing up with. We learn from each other. It's so incredible. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I just cannot believe your resilience and how much we have kept each other like in contact, in contact and connected through LinkedIn and otherwise. And I'm so glad that we had our chat today. Now, to close, are there anything that you would, let's give two pieces of advice that you would like to offer to the younger generations, either in law or in whatever industry to pursue, focusing on your lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to stay flexible. Life will change. That's a guarantee. You're going to
Change
get
is
older.
constant.
Right. Change is constant. Industries change. Your profession might change. Your circumstances will change. Stay flexible and don't take yourself too seriously. I see oftentimes the junior folks that I talk with, like, I have to find my passion. Like, oh my goodness, what career am I going to do? I have to find my passion, or when they're
It's not
kind
a
of
job
dating,
to find your passion.
right? Or when they're dating someone, it's like, oh, like, does it hit all the check marks, right? Or, if they're going to make a purchase, like, what if I don't like it later? And it's like, stay flexible. Don't take every decision seriously. The universe will reveal itself. It's just important to get the basics there. Have solid systems, if that makes any sense. I heard this phrase, you don't always rise to the level of your goals, but you will fall to the level of your systems or your habits. So put good systems in place. Have a strong community, develop your relationships. If you're a lawyer, develop some subject matter expertise in something. Or if you're not a lawyer, develop subject matter expertise in something.
Whatever you are, develop SME.
Exactly. Like, create good systems that you can be proud of, and the rest will fall in place.
I'm just really happy that we got a chance to talk today. And thank you. Like earlier, you tell me that you follow me in it's like, what do you do? I mean, my own brother asked me the question, what do you do for a living? How do you get yourself paid?
I don't know what you do for a living because you have all these really exciting community building leadership platforms. You're that person. You're like the PTA mom, the cookie lady. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're the cheerleader behind a bunch of women forums.
To donate, yes. I don't eat them.
Yeah, so you're that person. So we appreciate you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, the feeling is mutual. I mean, I was talking to a couple of people, like the questions keep coming up. But the thing was I said, yeah, I do filings and that's how I get paid. And that's how I support my passion projects. The thing is for my filings, I cannot talk about it because they're confidential. That's why I don't talk about it. So has been really interesting. And there are a couple of projects that I am actually working on. I haven't really talked about it, is that through LinkedIn, a lot of people have been following me. And some of the people want to sort of me to partner with them on certain projects. So based on time frame, I'm not quite sure how it all works, but I did take the time to talk to someone. It's a community-based organization called the Economic Justice Forum. It's actually based in Kenya, Africa. So I talked to the community leader and then kind of work out some of the expectations. So next Friday, I'm going to do a virtual presentation to the community of women in Kenya. I have invited 2 of my Gen Z members on the team, and we're going to basically do a presentation mixture with the audio version of my book, Collaborating in Competitive Ecosystem, focusing on, I think, FOMO and also collaboration. And there's a couple of chapters on our on-demand courses. So I just kind of thought of that would be maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, we open up the discussion to the women, because I have never been to Kenya. And I just thought that would be really exciting to hear what they have to say. And then it would also open up the 2 younger members on my team to the different part of the world, because I have not even been exposed to. And then we kind of figure out exactly how we navigate the engagement from that perspective. So, I'm basically donating an hour of me and 2 of my team members' time so that we could actually be connected to another part of the world and support a community-based organization. So that's what's kind of happening. And I'm still working on my outline.
See, Ashley, this is the stuff that I find so beautiful about you. So inspiring. This is really cool. I think oftentimes people are focused on their little projects, their little small sphere of the world, but your perspective is so much broader and it's so uplifting. So I love following you. It's like, you're right. Where is Ashley? You should have a tracker and a website. And so when you go places, we could be like, where in the world is Ashley? So Vegas, San Francisco, Kenya.
Oh no, Toronto. Kenya is not anytime soon. Toronto was last year, but I will go to LA in late this year. Because the Palmer is actually going to be in LA this year.
Oh, that's right. Let's meet up.
Yes, let's do something fun.
Chris and I will take you climbing.
I'll be the belayer down there watching you guys. Thank you so much, Jenni. You are amazing. You are definitely a rock star, a rock climbing star.
I saw the pun. I get it.
Thank you so much. And it's such a great pleasure to have you on Virtual Water Cooler Chat. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks so much, Ashley.